Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear me well? Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear me well? Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear me well? Hello, everyone. Right, Andrew is about to join us. Hello, Alini. Hello, Gabriel. Hello.
Hey,
Hello, Alini. Hello.
what?
Gabriel.
Hello, hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me,
Hi.
man?
Yeah, I can. Oh, hi.
Okay, I heard my voice like a delay, but are you okay? I was
Yeah,
like,
I'm fine.
is everything okay?
Yeah, I think everything's cool.
Yeah. So, Gabriel, is this tea time? Well, maybe not today. Actually,
Not
we
today.
have a surprise.
Let me just
Yep.
try something here. And
Please do. Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
think all right. So I think
Good.
we're all set.
We're streaming on YouTube, right?
Yeah, we're live
Yeah.
here on Instagram and we're live also on YouTube. So hello everyone. How's it going,
Hello,
everybody here
folks.
on Instagram? Hello everybody on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, today's not gonna be tea time.
Well, I
Uh,
had a very unusual request, right? But yeah, I'm glad you said yes. So may I? May I?
May
So today, guys,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna show you today. We're not gonna drink tea. We're actually gonna drink some caipirinha because that happened to be my dad's favorite drink. He had, he was known for his legendary Svenska caipirinha. Actually, that's how we called it because he was a Swedish guy,
Mhm.
who came to Brazil and mastered the technique, of making caipirinha. So everybody who's ever tasted my dad's caipirinha said it was the best they ever tasted. And I happen to have the recipe. It's a
Nice.
tradition. It runs in the family now. And I just wanted to pay my respects to my dad because today is his birthday. I miss you, Dad. Jag älskar dig. That's I love you in Swedish. So thank you very much for saying yes to my weird request. No
uh,
T, but
yeah.
caipirinha. It starts with a C.
Yeah,
Starts with a
exactly.
C, right?
Okay, my pleasure, man. And happy birthday, Mr. Headland, whatever you are, in your
Yes.
honor. And happy Mother's Day to everyone. And by the way, Skull.
Skål. Very good. You learned it. Awesome. Hmm.
And
I
happy
know. I
Mother's
know
Day
you
to
were a
everyone.
fan. Yes, I know you're a fan of the movie, the 13th Warrior, right?
Yeah,
With Antonio Banderas, right?
yeah.
So there's a cool poem, like a prayer, that I wanted to read very quickly.
Go
It's
ahead.
about the Vikings. So my dad was Swedish, and it goes like this: Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother and my brothers and my sisters. Lo, there do I see the line of my people back to the beginning. Lo, they do call to me. They bid me take my place among them in the halls of Valhalla, where enemies have been vanquished, where the brave shall live forever. Nor shall we mourn, but rejoice for those that have died the glorious death. And that's it. So, pay my respects to my dad.
All right, Skull again.
Thank you, man. Skål again. Hmm.
Okay, so
So
once again,
before we get drunk, let's
no,
start
not at
talking.
all. Not at all. So once again,
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much for joining us on YouTube, on Instagram. Happy Mother's
Yep.
Day again, once again. Happy Mother's
Happy
Day.
Mother's Day.
I hope you're having a very unusual but good Mother's Day. And
Yeah.
if you cannot be with your mother today, that's fine because it's
Yeah.
for her own good. So it's okay. And everything is going to pass. We're not going to be in this situation forever. So be a little
Forever.
bit patient.
Exactly.
And if you can be home, stay home. Stay home.
Stay home, stay safe. Yeah.
Yeah, and stay safe. Just a few reminders. We're live here on Instagram. We're live on YouTube. Tell everyone if you cannot leave the Instagram right now because, oh, I don't know if I can come back later. Well, you can leave, share the link that we have on YouTube, share with your people, share with your friends, and etc. And then you come back. But do that.
Perfect.
And this episode is going also to be uploaded to Spotify in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
And the latest episode, the last April episode, is also on Instagram. It's already on Instagram, on Spotify. Sorry.
On Spotify, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And today's episode is going to be about adult-child interaction.
Yeah.
And
much needed, right?
Yes,
especially now.
Yes, because there's been some sort of talks like from teachers, of course, say, because not only now because we're having remote teaching and online teaching and whatever kind of virtual teaching that we're having, but we're having. But there's been some complaints, some talks, some misunderstandings from teachers when it comes to this kind of relation, like especially parent-child interaction.
Interactions,
Is this good? Is this bad? Is it useful? Is it not useful?
Yeah. How should parents interfere, right?
Yes,
I think that's a big question,
Is this interference positive? Is it not positive? So we're going to be discussing everything today. And before we get into that, I would like to start. Actually, you're going to start, Andre.
Yes.
Because before we get into that, it's important to understand a little bit about cognition. We've been talking about cognition every here and there. If you've been following our episodes, almost every episode we talk about cognition. And we need to clarify a little bit about this term. Cognition.
Perfect.
So
what is cognition?
Let's clarify about cognition.
And I think a lot of people probably ask themselves when we're talking about cognitive and non-cognitive skills and competencies and everything. People are normally in doubt. They have a lot of questions, and so whoever has joined us can actually use the comment section below to give a couple of examples of cognitive things that we can do. What are skills that are cognitive? That's my question. Or if you prefer, you can actually try a definition of cognition, right? While I explain here. So think about this. The human brain is a very cool organ that so if you think about the evolution of the human brain and the difference between our brains and those of animals, the biggest difference is that we have a huge cortex, and the cortex is like the outer part, the outer layer of the brain, and then we have a bunch of stuff inside the brain. Like if you could cut the brain in half, you would see that inside, right in the middle, you have a bunch of structures. You have the limbic system, we call them subcortical areas, right? So whenever we talk about cognition, we're talking about the stuff that we can do more consciously, so that we can use the cortex to do, like especially the frontal lobe, the prefrontal cortex, right? Which means attention has to do with cognition, perception has to do with cognition, memory has to do with cognition. So those are conscious process. Of course, there's always an unconscious or a subconscious element, right? But those are things that I need to make some mental effort. I actually have to think. I have to rationalize to be able to do those things, right? So that's cognition. And then if you think about non-cognitive skills, they're kind of like more automatic. They come from the subcortical areas. And I think nowadays we are talking a lot about social emotional skills, for example, right? Yeah. So if you think about, motivation, for example, or, how sociable you are, how you interact with people, those are not really very conscious processes. They can be more. We actually have some control over many, many things. We can change the way we think and the way we interact. But cognition is the thing that we can do very well. Most of the time, I'd say, that animals cannot do very well. So, imagination, memorizing things, paying attention and actually perceiving the environment and making informed decisions, that's cognition, right? The problem is, when we say that, it feels like we should have more cognition and less non-cognitive skills. Actually, that's wrong. We need both of those systems to work well together. And there's a great neuroscientist from Portugal. I've mentioned this guy a couple of times, Antonio Damasio, and he says that you cannot really separate emotion from cognition. And there is a duality. A lot of people think, okay, an emotional person is not a very intelligent person, or vice versa. Actually, people who have the so-called emotional intelligence, so they can actually control their behavior and use that to enhance their cognition, to be in the right state of mind when they're doing something, they're even more efficient in terms of, memory, attention, and whatever. So cognition is very important, right?
Yes, exactly.
Let me take a sip now.
Yeah, because now it's your turn to be drunk.
Yes, exactly.
So, yes, that's very interesting what you said, because this is totally related to language acquisition. Because when we are learning in whatever language we are, first of all, we're actually learning the language, okay?
Yeah.
So we're paying attention to what's happening around us when we're babies, for instance. When we talk about native language, we're paying attention to what's happening in front of us, around us. And then we're going to actually connect the whole situation that's happening in front of us and the language that's being used. So this requires
and language is cognition. I mean, sorry, just to add, language is all about cognition as well. Exactly. Language is part of cognition. Yeah.
And this connection requires a high level of cognition, so to speak, because we have to kind of like not just memorize, but actually learn that specific chunk that was used in that specific time is related to that situation with a specific meaning. So this requires like super high level of executive
cognition.
Functions.
Definitely.
And there's one more thing. This happens not only with adults, with objects. This happens with whatever is going on in front of a baby. So if we have objects making sounds or objects making noises, this is the babies are going to make this connection. If we have adults having a conversation in front of the baby, babies are going to make this connection. If we have if we have animals, if we have a dog barking in front of the baby is going to associate like, okay, this sound is the sound of a dog, or the sound of a dog. No, but the sound of that specific entity. Okay. And, did I freeze?
No, you're there, man. You're there. Okay. Yeah, and I just wanted to add.
It's because I received a message here saying that my connection was not good, and I thought I froze.
Okay. Actually, you look, the whole thing is working perfectly. Don't worry. But then I just wanted to add, because you mentioned something very important that is related to both cognition and non-cognitive abilities, executive functions, right? So if you think about executive functions, we have three main types of executive functions. So we have the one that is related to memory, working memory, so storage capacity. And then we have the one that is related to inhibitory control. So then, of course, we're going to use some subcortical mechanisms, to kind of self-regulate, to try to stop us from doing something that is highly emotional sometimes, definitely. And you also have cognitive or mental flexibility, which is the power of, shifting your attention and kind of, that's why whenever we are working on something, we're trying to learn something, we have to be able to focus, have to be able to go back and forth, and, we have to have this kind of mental flexibility. And those are very important systems within the executive functions, and they are related to cognition, but also non-cognitive skills. So just to say, once and for all, that we need both. This duality is very important for us to learn anything. And I think a lot of people, we should be careful when you say you shouldn't be very emotional. I think it's the opposite. We should master or learn how to better control our emotions and self-regulate so that we can enhance our cognition. I think that's the idea. Kind of like Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. When you learn how to master your emotions, you unleash your true power. Kind of like that,
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is really important for language acquisition. And thank you so much, Andrea, for
Yeah.
jumping in, because I really received a message saying that my connection was really bad, and I had to.
Okay.
I had to figure out some stuff
on YouTube. Okay.
On YouTube, yes. I'm still trying to figure it out. But the thing is, continuing here, and I fixed the YouTube situation later. The thing is, the more we master our emotions, the more we master everything that's happening around us. That's what I was saying before I started paying attention to whatever was happening to my connection here. The more we're able to make this connection, because then we're going to actually think, of course, it's a very simplistic way of speaking, but we're going to say something like, okay, so this means that in that situation, and I can use this combination of words for that. Okay, I got it. Okay, I got it.
Perfect.
Okay, so that's basically how cognition. That's basically the role of cognition in language acquisition. And in second language acquisition is going to happen something very similar. The only difference is that we're not going to make this association. We're not going to link these things only to a specific situation. Because if our native language is already consolidated, the mental image is already stored in our minds. So we're going to associate the collocation or the idiom or whatever, the chunk. We're going to make this association. We're going to associate with the meaning, the situation, and with the language, the language that we already know, which is our native language. So that's why cognition is so important.
Most definitely. Let me just go back to two remarks here. One by Rose Barr. That's a good remark. She says that control emotions is not dismissing negative emotions, I think, right? Not really, Rose. I think we are taught when we are young, and even when we become adults, that we're not supposed to have negative emotions. And that's actually bad, very bad advice, because I don't really like to use the term emotional intelligence. I think a lot of people in academia, they kind of have some prejudice. It kind of, I don't know. But anyway, but it's about training yourself or trying to be emotionally intelligent. If, I could say that, which means that we have to acknowledge and be able to identify the negative emotion. And we have to be able to separate emotion from reaction, from response, right? And that's something that we can do better as we get older. And I'm going to go into Piaget's cognitive development stages, because, kids, they need support to get there. And then Gabriel said that how to get those emotional students. Of course, it's easier if they are rational. Everybody is both emotional and rational, Gabriel. I know we use that. We say that, you have to be rational. You have to make a rational decision. Well, it turns out that you cannot make a decision without the emotional part. It's well documented, and Antonio Damasio, again, has a wonderful book. He has a patient called Elliot, and the guy had a problem in some areas of his brain that related to creating emotions. So he was not able to make decisions. So emotions, he said, give us the lift we need to make the decision. So that's very important. And then Rudy was talking about language. So keep going, man.
Yes. No, yes. And when we're talking about emotions, this is really important when we consider actually the child-adult interaction. Okay.
Perfect.
First, because of course, I've just said that whenever a child is being exposed to whatever kind of entity that is interacting in the same space, the child's responsible for understanding, oh, this is a person, this is an animal, this is an object. in a very simplistic, in a very superficial and simplistic way. So this is how it works. And when the main interaction that we're going to have is adult child, or adult and the child as a third party exposed to this interaction. And if this interaction is, for example, extremely infantilized, so in the case of parents that say, "Oh, look at the birdie, the little doggy," and things like that, or even in
they speak babyish, right? Babyish,
or even in Portuguese, because Portuguese we do have some we can minimize things, and we say trenzinho, olha o trenzinho, olha o patinho. So this is going to have, if we keep doing this after a certain age of our kids, this is going to affect their language, because it's all related to the well, I'm not going to talk about emotions because it's not my part. Andre, you're going into that.
I'll talk about that part.
You're going to talk about that, but
definitely.
Speaking, they are going to be exposed to that, and they are going to have like 5, 6, 7, 8 years of exposure of that kind of language. They are not going to have any other type of background, linguistic background. So they are going to assume that that's how they are supposed to linguistically behave in whatever kind of situation that they're in. So, of course, I just picked one example here. There are many other examples of adult-child interaction. But this is something that we have to be careful about, because it's extremely important. This interaction is extremely important, not only after the baby is born, but also when the babies are still in the wombs. Okay.
Yeah.
So this interaction is really important. But let's consider when the baby is already born, because it's easier to understand. Okay, and slightly less controversial. But this is really important, and that this is very rich, right? But emotions also take a very important role in this case.
Definitely. And I just wanted to remind whoever is watching us that, neuroscience and psychology don't always agree, but a lot of, cognitive psychologists have actually made a huge contribution to the field, to both areas, And I think we've mentioned this guy a couple of times. Again, Jean Piaget, Swiss psychologist, physician, and he observed kids for a long time, and he came up with some levels or some stages of cognitive development. And that's what Rudy was talking about, how important it is for an adult to be present, for an adult to actually carry on with whatever the child is exposed to, because kids cannot do that on their own. So they're developing. And the four main stages that he describes are the sensory motor. So from birth to 2 years old, it's about, learning about the environment, learning how to move, understanding that objects, they don't cease to exist once you remove from, their sight. Actually, it's called object permanence, right? And then you have the pre-operational, the concrete operational, the formal operational stages. And then it's about, from 2 to 6 is pre-operational. You're still learning about others, but you're not really empathetic, if we can use that word. You're very egocentric. It's me, actually me at that phase. And then from 7 to 11, that's more concrete operational. You can understand analogies. And the pre-operational, you can understand symbology, right? You can actually understand that this means something else. And then finally, when we get to the 11 onwards, 12 onwards, that's the most sophisticated level or stage of cognitive development. You can actually think abstractly. For example, you can do basically what we can do now, but in a I would say a lesser degree, on a lesser degree, right? So that's important because you need someone to take you there. I mean, you need someone to keep you alive because you're useless as a kid. I don't mean that in a bad way, but as kids, they need a lot of care, a lot of attention because they cannot do. And human babies, that's the fun part. Human babies are the babies that actually take longer to develop because that's the cost of having such a sophisticated brain. So we need to be exposed to stimuli, but we need someone to be alongside us. Otherwise, we need an adult to interact with us, but we don't need this adult to hamper. We don't need this adult to do something negative that will actually damage us for the rest of our lives. And we need them for support. And we're going to talk about, Vygotsky and how you can do that, right?
Yes, in a couple of minutes. Yeah. So stay with us, right? Just a very important thing to say here. We're back on YouTube. On a different awesome. Link, but we're back to YouTube. I'm sorry for that, guys. I told you when I got the message that my connection was having issues, I thought, okay, we have a problem. But this emotion is really important. Yeah. And going back to this emotion in this child-adult interaction, let's go back. For those who don't know, my first degree is in engineering. That's my first degree. Yeah. So sometimes I like to remember my days when I was taking engineering classes and provide some numbers. And Michael Tomasello has a very interesting study on how languages are formed. And in one of his studies, he analyzed a lot of adult-child interaction. And around 20%, and that's a lot, huh? When we talk about child-adult interaction, that's a huge number, a huge percentage. 20% of adult-child interaction in the language that parents or adults use with childs start with the word "what" in English, of course. Okay, so almost 20% of every adult-child interaction, the adult is using "what" in the beginning of a sentence. Yeah. So what do you think the child is going to say when she reaches the 12th month of age? There's a big chance that the child is going to say "what" and the noun, something like that. Or maybe just the noun, and then the baby is going to expand from the noun to "what" and the noun. So supposing I said doggy, so let's suppose that they have a dog in the house, and that interaction between the baby and the adult, we constantly have, "what a nice dog, look at the doggy," or something like that. There's a big chance that the first words coming out of that baby is going to be doggy, and then the baby is going to expand to "what doggy," whatever, and doggy, something like that. So this is really important, and this is positive. This is really positive because this is going to be the background that the babies have to construct their languages. And when it comes to second language, and we are the adults, or we're playing the role of adults here, because sometimes we're teaching adults, not only kids, not only young learners or teens, but we're playing the role of the adults when it comes to second language. This is also really important because we're going to be the background for the linguistic background for our students.
Definitely,
and this interaction is actually really important. So that's why we also have to be very careful because I don't know, for those who took CELTA courses or the CELTA, or for those who have the CELTA certificate, Delta, TKT, whatever, we say, it's important to be careful with what we say to our students because we can scar our students for life. And it's true.
Fossilization, right?
Yes, not only fossilization. Now I'm going back to the emotions here, but fossilization too, but emotions too. An emotional fossilization, so I can say that. I don't know if I can say this thing. If this is
like trauma.
Yeah, you know,
You can traumatize.
yeah, because I think trauma is such a strong word. But anyway, so
It is. It
this is
is.
really, but this is something that's going to the students are going to carry for their lives if we scar them emotionally, because then
Yep.
I bet that we have a lot of people watching us, and we're going to have a lot of people listening to us on Spotify later
Yep.
on, YouTube, here, whatever. I bet that at least one of you guys have already had a student saying, I don't like English, I hate English. Why is that?
Just one student.
You know, because something happened in the past. The adult
Definitely.
student
Yeah.
or the adult kid relation, or the adult kid interaction, or student student teacher interaction had a problem in the past, and I'm not talking about age here, okay? And the student or the kid, the teenager, the adult, they couldn't cope with that, and now the student has some sort of
For you. Okay, you're back.
I think it's I'm back.
You're back. You're back. Yeah.
Jesus. Oh, come
no,
on,
that
man.
was like a very, very short glitch. Don't worry. Keep going.
Oof.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
or maybe it was me. I don't know. Yeah.
This is super bad, because this is going to affect the linguistic development of our students. First,
most definitely.
Language, second language, whatever language we're talking about here.
Yeah. And also, you know, since we're talking about positive, negative adult children interaction, right? If you think about as functional adults as what we would like to be when we grow up, right? We want people to be functional, to be emotionally stable, like Gabriel mentioned. I think there is a problem with parents, and really, I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart, parents. We want to help you, you know, because you're spoiling your kids on so many levels. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking today about this topic, because we're dealing with teachers and who are trying to do some remote teaching, and then parents are interfering in a very, very negative way. Because first of all, we understand that, you know, kindergarten, preschool kids, like very young learners, they need a lot of support. But what kind of support are you giving them if you are actually answering for them, if you're interrupting them, if you're interfering with the instruction that they get from the teacher, for example, if you are pressuring them to always give the right answer, you know, when and then that's something that I think parents need to learn how to do better. Because what I get, a lot of parents are actually watching the live sessions with their teachers, and they are just whispering the answer to their kid's ear, or they're just saying, do it, come on, answer, or I'm going to count to 3. Yeah, or, you know, they're shouting, or that's not good. That's actually a way for you to perpetuate, or for you to destabilize your kids' emotional balance, and they're going to carry that on, you know, forever, maybe, possibly. So what I'm saying is, there has to be interference. You need to give support as the adult. I mean, otherwise kids cannot do things on their own, depending on their age. I've just mentioned the 4 stages, right, of Piaget. But then if you do it in the wrong way, if you provide too much support, more than needed, you are not letting your kids be challenged, and then they're not really learning, because learning has to do with the right amount of challenge. Yes. And then if you give them too much challenge, you traumatize them. If you don't give them too much challenge, then they're going to have the impression that everything comes easily, and then they're going to be emotionally unstable. Leo Freiman, just to mention this guy so you can talk, Rudy. Leo Freiman is a psychologist, a Brazilian psychologist, and he wrote a book about the emperor's syndrome. I must have talked about this a couple of times. And the emperor syndrome is basically a state in which you give your kids everything they want, everything, you spoil your kids, and you avoid negative emotions. So basically your kid is feeling, I can't do this, daddy. I can't do this. Is too hard for me. Oh, no, oh, I will help you. I will do it for you. Or I'm feeling angry because I have to do that. I'll buy you a present.
Yeah.
So then you never, ever teach them how to self-regulate, how to deal with their own emotions. And then you cripple them, words of Leo Freiman, you cripple them for life, emotionally speaking, you know?
Exactly.
That's the idea.
Yeah. And this is a negative interaction that we're talking about, because again, now let's go back to languages here, which is our case, because they're learning, our students are learning English or whatever second language we have here. If they don't have the challenge, or whenever they face a challenge, they say, "Mommy, Daddy, I can't do that. Can you help me?" Let's assume that we have parents that can actually help their kids with the language. They have linguistic knowledge to help them.
Sure.
How are these students going to acquire the language and actually acquire the language and learn the language? They're not going to have that. Okay. So this is a bad kind of interaction. Or even worse, when the parents dictate, because parents say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that, so I'm going to dictate the answer to you," especially because we're talking about language. They might think, parents might think, "Oh, I'm going to dictate because then my kids are going to listen to that and they're going to..." No, it's not going to happen, because then the focus of the child is going to be on, okay, let me copy, let me transcribe whatever is being said to me. And they are not chances for focusing on the language use is really low. It's really, really low, because especially if we're dealing with very young learners, because very young learners are still not ready to have a very hard or extreme focus or multitasking focus, because they are going to, this kind of learning requires a very hard focusing, because paying attention to what's being dictated to us, decoding that, understanding, and then transcribing.
So higher order thinking skills, right? Higher order cognitive skills,
If we're talking about very young learners, they can't do that. So all they can do that. Transcribe. They're going to make transcriptions. They're going to have transcriptions of what's being said to them. So this is a kind of bad interaction that we have between adult and child. And
definitely,
this is going to hinder the process of language acquisition of the student, because then the student's going to be required to produce something orally. They're not going to be able to do that. And then what's going to happen? Oh, we have a bad teacher here. Teacher, what's wrong? What's wrong? Because, or even worse, some parents might blame online teaching. Oh, this online teaching doesn't work. Because, ever since the online teaching started with the pandemic situation, my child or my kids stopped progressing, having a linguistic development. But, this is something that we have to analyze and evaluate and ponder. We have to ponder if this is the kind of, because if
that's
this is the kind of interaction, yes, because if this is the kind of interaction that's happening in houses, I mean, we're teachers, we're not magicians, we're not wizards, we're not, we're not Harry Potter.
But you mentioned something, man. Many times parents cannot deal with their kids' frustration, because kids, they tend to do that. It's natural. It's something that it comes very easily to kids. I can't do something, I'm going to ask mommy or daddy for help, and then they're going to help me. But then how they help you matters a lot. If they're going to give you the answer and they're not going to allow you to think yourself, and then of course we're talking about the right level of challenge according to the cognitive development stage, right? To use Piaget, right?
Yes.
So if you have a parent who gets the kid even more frustrated, or trying to pressure the kid to give the right answer, or on the other hand, you have parents who will just give them all the answers. Both situations are really bad. They're two examples of negative interactions. that you might have. So what is the thing that you have to do as a parent? And I think that will bring us to the last topic, right? Sort of. Am I going too fast? No. So
No,
you're going to talk about it. Yeah.
No. We're not going too fast. The only thing we didn't start. We didn't start exactly at 6. We started at 6:05 or 6:00 something.
Okay. So we still have some time.
We still have some time.
Awesome.
Right. But we can go further on this ZPD thing, because this is really important. Because of course,
definitely.
Before we get into ZPD, we have to make something very, very clear. We're giving examples of bad adult-child interaction, but that doesn't mean that every adult-child interaction is negative. Okay, we're not saying this. This has to be extremely clear, because maybe some people who have just joined us, or a person that's just joined us here on Instagram or on YouTube. Oh, but this is really bad. No, we're not saying this. We're just giving examples of negative interaction, because this is something that's happening a lot, which and Gabriel mentioned something a couple of minutes ago that reinforces what we have just said, when he says that kids don't feel comfortable when provided feedback, when they receive feedback. They don't know how to cope with that. They don't know how to deal with feedback because of that. Because they're so used to having parents taking care of everything. So this interaction is completely unbalanced. And
many times always praising them, right?
Yes.
For whatever they do. They always got to praise.
Yes, and overpraising is also negative. Even from teachers, even when we overpraise students, is really bad. Like, oh, no, but that's okay. No, be true to your students, okay? So once again, we're not saying that every adult-child interaction is negative. We're just giving examples of negative interactions. And
you know what, Ben? Yeah. No, I mean, since we're giving, some examples of negative interactions, let's think, before we move on to Vygotsky, right? Let's think about some examples of positive interactions, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So what should it look like? When you have a kid and a parent working together, parents trying to help their kids learn or acquire a second language, what should we see? So Rudy, I'll say one thing, you say another, and then we'll brainstorm here. We'll make a list, right?
Let's
do it. So I'll give a very practical example of what I've been experiencing here. I feel like parents need to sort of stimulate kids' curiosity, not just give them the answer, but ask questions. What did you learn today? What is that? So the teachers are presenting stuff. Kids are naturally curious, right? Mm-hmm. So I think they can give kids more, they can stimulate kids' curiosity by asking more questions. So you go now.
Yes, and well, I'm going to give a more linguistic approach here, which is my thing here. If you're going to help your students in the case of language here, let's suppose that you have kids or you have students having parents, etc., and you're teaching English here, and you know that parents like to help or interfere or interact. Maybe talk to these parents and say, okay, so do you really want to interfere? Yes, I want to interfere. Try to communicate with your kids in English then. If you really have this knowledge, if you have parents that have this knowledge, if they can do that, you can we as teachers, we can stimulate that. Okay, not doing the activity, not taking care of the activities, but actually communicating, because this is going to improve their exposure. Because we know that when it comes to second language and English, which is the case here, our students only have the classroom or the classes now, or the virtual space to be exposed to the language. So this is going to be enhanced. And also maybe the parents have, I'm not going to say a better approach, because we're teachers and we know we have a lot of repertoire when it comes to approach.
Definitely.
But they're parents. So maybe they know exactly what to say, how to say in order to reach. Yes, they know how to reach their kids. So this is really good. So you can explore that, So this is really important.
That's a good one. Yep.
which is a very nice cue to Vygotsky, because we tend to think that zone of proximal development, or ZPD, is it's only going to happen when we have a child-child interaction. Well, that's normally the case. But why is that normally the case? Because they are, in terms of cognition, they're paired. So they speak the same language, cognitively speaking, in cognition. Okay, so they speak the same language. They are aligned. But we can do that with adults too. It's hard, but we can have this.
Most definitely, And so since we're talking about ZPD, I think it's important for us to understand that kids, they require a lot of support. And not just kids, but, since we're talking especially about kids, and they have a certain level of knowledge of cognitive ability that they can perform at a certain level. They can actually do a couple of things. And that's what they know. That's the inner circle that they're in, right? So that's the circle that they're in. Where they can go to, how far they can get, that depends on social interaction and interaction with someone who has a little more, who has a higher level of knowledge. And that could be a peer, like you said, or it could be the teacher or the parent, right? Yeah. And then, so the idea is actually to carry your students in a way that you will make them reach their potential. They're going to leave their inner circle. And I know lots of people who are watching us have studied pedagogy and, modern languages, and you've certainly heard of Vygotsky, right? But the idea is actually to increase the level of challenge with support so that they can kind of get there on their own, but guided by you. So you're kind of like pushing them to get to this zone that they are going to learn more. They're going to reach their potential there, right? But then there is a problem. And I think the problem has to do with giving kids too much challenge. If you give them a lot of challenge, then they're going to go to a zone that is impossible, because then I cannot do that. I'm going to get frustrated. I don't know how to deal with frustration very well. My dad, my mom, they don't know how to deal with my frustration. Everybody's going to get frustrated. That's not a very conducive learning environment, right?
Exactly.
So it actually hinders learning. Yeah. So that's what we need to have it's kind of like the Goldilocks zone that the challenge has to be just the right amount, a little beyond, what you can do, but not to below the level that you can perform so that you can get there. But you need to interact with someone for you to get there, right?
Yes. And we also have to be careful as teachers not to put a lot on the plate. Because sometimes we have the right amount of challenge. We do have the right amount of challenge. We consider their age. We consider their maturation level, etc. And we put it on a plate. And then we think, okay, so now I'm going to serve another plate with the same amount of challenge. That's too much. Because this is what we call a cognitive overload.
Yeah, perfect.
Because even though they're in the right amount, but we do have two plates. So what does that mean, Rudy? So if we're teachers and we're teaching, for example, something very complex like passive voice. Passive voice, sometimes it's considered a very complex language, because it has the whole order, the whole syntax is inverted. It doesn't make much sense. I mean, logically speaking, it doesn't make much sense, etc. So we're teaching passive voice. And then you say, okay, so now I'm going to teach the usage of adverbs. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too much. I mean, in the same class at the same time. Maybe that's too much.
Oh, yeah. Cognitive overload.
That's cognitive overload. Even though your lesson is prepared and it's in accordance with what your students can deal with, even though it's in accordance with what they can deal with. Yeah. That's too much. That's really too much. So,
of a challenge, definitely.
So passive voice. So go with passive voice. Insert maybe things from past classes. because then we're going to have the recycling of certain words, the recycling of certain language. Insert that,
Definitely.
insert there, but don't go too far. And again, you might think, oh, but they can take it. They can, but one plate at a time.
And then you're getting into the out of reach circle, the outer circle, right? Mm-hmm. And that learning doesn't happen there. Actually, a lot of frustration happens there. Trauma happens there. So you gave a perfect example of cognitive overload. So if you're working with too much information in the same lesson, in the same class, your students are not going to be able to cope with that. And that's going to turn into frustration, and frustration is going to turn into, a less conducive learning environment, right? I understand that we have a lot of pressure to deal with. For example, we have to cover the syllabus, right? The content of the book. And sometimes books, I'd say most of the time, books are very content driven, and of course, it's just how the world works, right? But we have to realize that there is a time for us to be able to consolidate all of that new memory, and that our brains, they don't really grasp everything in just one go.
Yes.
And then so frustration is part of the process. And again, if we tell parents about the zone of proximal development, that they need to interact with their kids, that they have to give support, they have to help us scaffold, which is a very important term here. If we tell them that, and they realize that frustration is part of the process, maybe they won't be so eager to give their kids the right answer just to make them feel good, because then you're messing with the learning process, parents, just let them do and try. And if they get it wrong, awesome. That's how you learn, you get it wrong, then keep going, and then you'll get it right someday,
Yes. And Andre, you mentioned frustration, and I'm going to link what you have just said with what Rose is typing here, because she's saying that she's learning Chinese and she's frustrated because the teacher she has is constantly pushing her, giving a lot of plates with a lot of food.
Too many plates. Too
many plates with a lot of food. So she's going to have some digestion problems here. She's having digestion problems here.
So, gastritis or ulcer.
When we say that frustration is important, it's important because the correct type of frustration, the frustration of I tried once, I couldn't do it, let me try again using a different strategy. That's the kind of frustration that's formative, that's constructive.
That's linked with good stress. There's bad stress that paralyzes you, the FFF response, and then good stress that actually makes you eager to try harder, try again.
Yes,
I can do this.
Exactly.
It's a challenge.
Just a correction. It's not Rose's teacher. It's Rose's friend. But anyway, but she's getting frustrated. So, but the thing is, why is she getting frustrated? Not because she is not emotionally prepared to deal with that. It's because probably her friend, who's working as a teacher, and for those listening to us on Spotify, I'm having air quotation here again. She's getting frustrated because her friend is pushing the envelope here when she shouldn't, because everybody goes to up to a certain limit. You cannot push it. You cannot go too far. Wait. Rose, in this case, you have to tell your friend, wait a minute, hold your horses. Let me absorb that. Let me try to understand this part first. Okay, I got it. Then you tell your friend, okay, I got this part now. Give me more plates. I'm done with this plate.
There is a guy who has a very weird name. He's a psychologist.
It's not Rudy, right?
No, actually, no. It's not you. Don't worry. I think he's Hungarian, if I'm not mistaken. And his name is actually Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. It's like Michael's Saint Michael, translated to the equivalent in English, right? Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. If you look at how you spell his last name, you'll go like, I can't pronounce this thing, But anyway, he has a concept of flow, and the concept of flow is pretty interesting for what you just said. It's like the Goldilocks zone, really. It's where learning takes place very effectively. Like you maximize learning. It's almost like you can fight or you can prevent cognitive overload when you get to that zone, you know? So let's imagine you're in the zone, flow theory, exactly, Mihail Csikszentmihalyi. So when you get to this space or to this zone that you are enjoying what you're doing, it's challenging, but not challenging, not too challenging. Exactly, Rose read the book, perfect. So it's the right amount of challenge. You are happy with what you're doing. You don't even realize that time is passing. It's flow. This is flow. Mm-hmm. And then you can go on for hours and hours and you can remember basically every single detail of the experience because it was so, and then for a very long time. And we have a lot of, testimonials of people who have gone through that. And we have gone through that. We have something that happened to us in our lives that, oh my God, it was such a great experience, the right amount of challenge. I was so in the zone that I learned very well. And that's kind of like if you can get to this flow area, to the flow zone, you can learn very well. And again, it's about having the right amount of challenge, enjoying what you're doing, and it's possibly something you're passionate about. So you have a lot of intrinsic motivation to do it. So there are a lot of things attached to flow theory, right?
Yes, sure. And going back a little bit, not to, because then Gabriel is going to say, oh, you guys forgot about me. Gabriel said going back a little bit, Gabriel, because he mentioned something about how teachers can help parents deal with this kind of interaction. And then we wrap up here. He said that the school he works for is trying to help parents not teaching them English, but how to approach their kids in order to help them how to study, how to look for information, or maybe Google information, etc., etc. So that's the thing. So thank you very much, Gabriel. And let's wrap up.
Let's wrap up. Yeah. All right. I mean, so let's do this. I finished my caipirinha, man.
Yeah, me too, man. Yours. Even me too. Yeah. I'm not even drunk. And I'm not even drunk.
No, because you descend from the Italians, I descend from the Vikings. So we were born for this thing,
Yeah.
Italians do like this, right?
Not just this, but the hands in general.
Like the hands.
That's why I'm very close. That's why I'm very close to the camera here. 2 more minutes, guys. Thank you very much. Seriously, thank you very much for staying with us.
Thank you.
Final remarks here. Marcelo Consultoria now has a very important course coming along about social emotions, how to deal with emotions, mindfulness.
Non-cognitive skills.
Soft skills. Soft skills. This course is carried by Professor Bettina Sersen. And all you got to do to sign up, go to the link that we have in our bio, and you can sign up and you can have a lot of information. Andre, do you have any courses going on? Tell us about it.
Well, we have a course that we are both the tutors, the bilingualism course. So you can check that on our websites as well. If you want to check out some of my courses on neuroscience, psychology, go to edcrocks.com. And I just wanted to say something very quickly. If you liked Chá Pedagógico, and I think you did, I hope you did, tell your friends, spread the word. We want to reach more people because we think, we do this for you guys, really. We want to talk about stuff that matters. We want to help parents. We want to help teachers. We want to help ourselves and, spread the word.
Spread the word.
Spread the word.
We're here on Instagram, and when the connection is good, we're also on YouTube, and we're also on Spotify. Follow us. Andre, thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you very much, Rudy, and thank you very much for the caipirinha, okay?
All right, guys. Take care. Stay home. Stay safe.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you.